Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. So I've had some really nice beers from these guys so far, mainly New England hazy IPAs if memory serves me correctly, but the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a little bit of a special one and it's a style that I've not tried from them before. So looking forward to this one. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Åre, which is quite a famous little ski town in Jämtland county, which is to the northwest of Stockholm. I guess we could say somewhere between halfway and 2/3 of the way up the length of Sweden, but it's quite close to the Norwegian border as well. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri. So this particular beer is simply called 100. It comes in at 10.5% ABV, and this one is a barley wine. So yeah, this beer was released here in Sweden as part of the local Osmoskalig assortment through Systembolaget for January of 2022. And yeah, it is their 100th batch and it is brewed exclusively with Bonsack malt. So for those of you that don't know, Bonsack malt is, the Bonsack maltery is a little maltery in Norway, which is to the north of Trondheim and then almost directly out west from Svartberget. So just a very small company actually. So pretty interesting one. It's a Norwegian malted barley wine actually. So yeah, this should hopefully make for a very interesting review. I'm very curious to see what this is going to be like. So let's crack on then and see how we go. Nice to return to Svartbergets as well after what seems like quite a little while. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri as well, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to pretty much all the time. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri then. So Svartbergets, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Åre in Jämtland county, and the company was founded back in 2017. So the brewery was originally based in the basement of the Åre Ski Inn restaurant, and the main man behind brewing is Philip Hafstad, who had been working as a home brewer for about 6 years previously, and he joined the company after a period of working in Asia. But the restaurant is a family business, and it was founded originally back in 1980 when Arne Hafstad built the restaurant on the hill. So at the restaurant they have 10 taps, and originally they had to transport the beer up the hill by bike every week to sell it in the restaurant. But later on in 2019, owing to the success of the beers, they decided that they were going to invest more heavily in the brewery side of the business. So they opened up a second and larger production facility in Durid, which is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and they hired Sebastian Torneus as the brewer. But they have gradually expanded their output over the course of 2020, and they produced about 100,000 litres, and they estimate that in this facility they could eventually produce around 350,000 litres. I haven't been able to find any more up-to-date figures with how much they've brewed for the year, so yeah, I'm assuming it will be somewhere between 100,000 litres and 350,000 litres over the course of 2021. But as of January 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 55 different kinds of beer, and I think it's fair to say that this brewery are probably best known for their different IPAs. These guys have been doing a few very nice New England hazy type IPAs in recent times, and I've reviewed one or two of them for you here on the channel as well. So yeah, that is everything that I can really tell you about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri. These guys are quite highly rated at the moment, and I'm sure we'll see more from them in the future, but they are definitely worth checking out if you get the chance, and you can order their beers all across Sweden actually, so that is worth doing actually. But yeah, that's everything, as I say, I can tell you about them. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on then and see how we get on with this beer. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty simple and a little bit different compared to what we've had from Svartbergets in the past. So there you can see, there's the little thing with the Bonsack malt. So remember, as I said, the Bonsack maltery is in Norway, a little place called Skogen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. But yeah, just directly out to the west of Ore, but to the north of Trondheim in Norway. But yeah, you can see handcrafted beers from Ore, Sweden, Svartbergets, and this one has a gold top on the can. Like I said, this beer was released as part of the local Osmoskerit through Systembolaget here in Sweden for January of 2022, and I can't remember how much I paid for this. I've got a feeling this one might have been about 60 Swedish kroner, so that's roughly about €6, somewhere in the region of like £5.25 sterling, and I guess maybe about $7 American for those of you watching in different places. But yeah, a little 330ml can, 10.5% ABV, barley wine. Let's have a look at this and see how we go. Yeah. So I've no idea whether this beer is going to be more of an English barley wine or more of an American barley wine. But the main differences for me in the flavour profile would be that the English barley wines tend to be a little bit more kind of roasty and toasty, if you like, on the brown sugary side of things, whereas the American ones are more sort of rounded and sweet. And the fruits in an English barley wine tend to be a little bit more kind of dried and almost slightly phenolic, if you like, whereas the American ones are a bit more rounded and bright actually, and a little bit more oily as well, I would say. So yeah, we'll need to see exactly what kind of barley wine this one is going to be. But both are very nice styles, we should say that. And remember, the barley wine as a style is kind of the big brother of the double IPA. So you have pale ale, IPA, double IPA, and barley wine, and these beers are all related through the malt to hop ratio. It's that changes as you try these different beers. But yeah, anyway, with this one, it's actually poured this really lovely kind of ruby colour. I think to you guys on the camera, from what I can see, it actually looks a little bit more kind of coppery to you guys, but as I've seen, for me, with this camera, when I look at the screen, it always comes across as quite dark, but the colour is actually very nice when you see the video at the end. It's a bit strange, but yeah, for me, the colour of this beer, it's a lovely kind of dark chestnutty ruby colour that you're getting out of this one. Now, the beer is pretty damn clear actually. You can see this one, I think this sort of, yeah, it's condensation on the edge of the glass, but this beer is really pretty clear actually, just a little touch of natural haze to it, but it looks absolutely great. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on the type of malts that you use. That goes a long way to determining the EBC rating. The length of the wort boil is also going to play a role as well, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in can affect this as well. And when it comes to barley wines, in my experience, you do have to care about that a little bit, because these beers are more kind of you know, sort of coppery, chestnutty in their appearance. So adding adjuncts and doing barrel aging can affect the colour of these quite slightly. With imperial stouts, not really, but yeah, with the barley wines and doppelbocks and Scotch ales and stuff, yeah, you can affect the colours with that. So you do need to care about it a little bit. But as you can see, when we poured this beer, there wasn't much in the way of head to this one. It's just got a nice kind of fawn coloured ring around the edge of it. There's one or two little wisps sitting on top of the liquid itself, and yeah, there's not much in the way of carbonation visible, just one or two big bubbles on the side of the glass, and then yeah, one or two wee ones escaping up towards the surface there. But overall, it looks very, very nice, this one. I do like how this beer goes together. So yeah, certainly not out with the realms of possibility for a barley wine when you consider the appearance of this one. So nothing else we really need to say about that. Let's have a little look at the aroma and see how we get on. Very curious about this. I had one or two whiffs and it does smell like it's going to be pretty nice. So aroma time. Ooh, that does smell pretty nice actually. And I will say, straight off, this beer has in my opinion, it's got a little bit of an American characteristic, and it's also got a wee bit of an English characteristic to it as well. So you're getting a mix of both things out of this for me. But I will say straight away, it does smell very, very nice. You've got a bit of the brown sugar in there that you want. You've got some really nice fruity characteristics, and you can smell just a wee touch of the hoppy character too, actually. Does it say when this one was canned? No. It just says best before the 5th of the 10th, 23. So I'm guessing this one might have been canned back in October of last year then. So it's about 3, I guess in this case, it's nearly 4 months old, because we're getting close to February now when I'm filming this one. So it's just shy of 4 months old. And yeah, usually with a barley wine, you want to give these a couple of months to just kind of round out a little bit. Drinking a fresh barley wine is definitely, it's not a bad experience, but it's not the best experience you're going to get from these beers. They do need a little bit of time to kind of mellow out, in my opinion. But yeah, this one does smell pretty nice. And it actually, in fairness to it, it actually smells as if it's already aged a little bit. So that's kind of interesting. And I'm surprised if that's, I suppose, when was it? It was 2017 that these guys started the 100th batch. I don't know, maybe it's the 100th batch in the new brewery, because that brewery, the new brewery was what? 2019, yeah. So yeah, that would kind of make sense actually. Yeah, one batch a week or something, but no, I don't know. Maybe I'm not 100% sure. Could be the 100th recipe or something they've used exactly, but yeah. Interesting. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very nice. Let's break it down a wee bit for you though. So, yeah, backbone of the beer is very kind of brown sugary, and the brown sugars are actually quite, I find that they're quite sweet in this one. So for me, there is a little touch of woodiness to the backbone. There's 1 or 2 little nutty kind of elements too, and a wee kind of sprinkling of a bread crust, like a brown bready bread crust sort of thing. But on top of that, it's a lot of brown sugar, so you get a slightly toasty caramel out of this one, which is interesting. Very, very slightly toasty, but on top of that, there's a lovely big kind of bright, brown sugary character to this one. So again, I do quite like how that goes together. Yeah. So aroma wise, this one is, this one is very, very nice in that sense. The malty backbone to this beer is absolutely lovely. So yeah, definitely some sweet kind of caramel to it. I even get a little bit of a kind of fudgy note out of this, which is quite interesting. So you get these really kind of bright brown sugars, which is more American, but you get a little bit of the more kind of roasty, toasty, caramelly brown sugar out of it, which I think is a wee bit more English. But it's got a little, as I say, it's got a little bit of bread crust, which you would associate more with an English one. But then the kind of woody, nutty, and slightly, I do get a little bit of vanilla out of this, which is interesting. These kind of more smooth and sweet notes are things that I would normally associate more with an American barley wine. So yeah, this one's really, for me stylistically, this one's really doing a little bit of both actually. But I would say it's leaning a bit more towards the American side of things, which is interesting. And of course, this Bonsack malt, I have no idea what this is going to taste like in that sense, because I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've encountered this, unless I've done it in some of the Norwegian beers without knowing. But yeah, aroma wise, the malty backbone of this beer is really nice. So on the hoppy side of things, for the green component, remember, barley wines, yeah, if you drink them fresh enough, you will get a good little bit of hoppy character in the aroma. So for me, with this one, you can pick up a little bit. The green component really leans towards a fresh, wet, grassy type of thing. But yeah, there's a little bit of floral character. There is a little bit of floral character underneath, and then you can get a wee touch of, there's a wee tiny little bit of earthiness in this one. I'd be very curious to know what hops they've used in this, actually. But yeah, the green component for me is very, very smooth in that sense. But let's have a wee look at the fruity side of the beer. Yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's interesting, and I think it's more in the fruity side of the beer, it shows a bit of English and a bit of American character again. So it smells to me like the base of the fruity part of the beer, it has a little bit of that kind of dry, blackcurranty, figgy type note to it. But on top of that, you're definitely getting a little bit more of a I get a bit of a kind of sharper raisin, and there's a wee bit of an oily plum in there as well. So it's like the base of the fruits. The base of the fruity side of the beer is more English, but then more kind of black. As I say, on top of that, you get a bit of that sharper American raisin and the juicy plum, but then a bit of fig and a bit of dry black currant kind of sitting underneath. But at the front of the nose, I definitely get a wee bit of a more kind of blackberry type vibe out of this one. So it's really interesting from that perspective. The aroma on this beer is very, very nice, and I would definitely say overall I think it leans toward the American side of this one, that sort of sweeter, more rounded type style, if you like. But then behind that, it does have a few little English characteristics, namely the little bit of breadiness that it has, a wee bit of the toastiness, and also some of the kind of dry fruity characters. But the more rounded, oily fruits, caramelly notes and stuff like this, those are definitely more American in stylistic terms. But it's a lovely smelling beer, this one. I'm really curious to see how it's going to taste. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time just to mull over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it's about time that we try this one. So this is the 100th batch from Svartbergets, a 10.5% barley wine, brewed with Bonsack malt from Norway. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, and congratulations to Svartbergets on their 100th batch. There we go. Ooh. Nice. Yeah. First impression of this beer, it's actually just really nicely rounded. It's one of these ones that just strikes me as being, it doesn't do anything surprising for the style. I'll say that straight away, but it is just really nicely done. And that's kind of what we've come to expect of Svartbergets. These guys, they're just putting out nice beers. And to be honest, there's so many breweries out there these days. You can't really ask breweries to do more than that other than put out nice beers. We've not had a new kind of style craze in quite a wee while. It seems to the haze craze, the New England IPAs seem to be sticking. We've not really had anything else beyond that. But what we are seeing now is that breweries are starting to try a few different styles and things like that. They're starting to try, do some West Coast IPAs, do some black IPAs, try a barley wine, stuff like this. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the first non-IPA that I've had from Svartbergets, but this, when they can do a beer like this, it shows you, they can do these other styles. So I would love to see that. I'd love to see breweries just trying different things rather than brewing New Englands all the time. This is a nice wee change of pace from Svartbergets. The other first impression that I have of this one is that it feels very, very clean. But when you think about where Ora is, it's right in the middle of the mountains, basically. It's not a surprise, but I always feel that Nordic beers, the Swedish and the Norwegian ones, the Finnish ones to an extent too, and even the Danish ones too, they always have just this cleanliness to the mouthfeel, and you really get that in this one. So it's a very oily, but at the same time nice and clean barley wine. I'm giving this one a thumbs up. I think this is a nice beer. As I say, nothing surprising, but just really well crafted, and you can't ask for more than that these days, in my opinion. So let's try and break this one down for you then and describe the flavour properly as we usually do. Yeah, that is nice. So backbone of the beer then. We'll go through the malty side first, as we always do. So, middle third of your palate. It's interesting because it feels like there's just this smooth, woody layer forming the backbone of the beer across the middle and the back third of your palate, and that is really interesting. This is not barrel aged. This is not a barrel aged beer, I should point out. Although I do hope they've kept a little bit of it for barrel aging. That would be interesting. But on top of that, you do get this on top of that nice smooth woody layer, you do get a little bit of bread crust. We're focused on the middle third of the palate now. So toward the back of that middle third of the palate, there's a wee bit of a kind of sprinkling of there's a wee bit of a sprinkling of bread crust in there. And then, yeah, as you move kind of further forward, it's like a brown bread crust, I should say. As you move further forward, that bready character, that slightly brown bready character, kind of stays there. But on the front half, toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get a wee bit of a, you do get a little touch of a nutty character and a wee bit of a slightly vanilla note out of this one. So that's really interesting for me. I do like how that goes together. And what I would say as well is that the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, the bready character just kind of lingers there, and it gives the beer a wee bit of a graininess, and the graininess almost feels a little bit very slightly toasty, and for me that's an English characteristic. The sort of woodiness and the kind of vanilla notes that you get out of this are a bit more American actually. But yeah, I like this one for sure. I'd be curious to know whether they brewed it to be English or to be American, or if they've just, you know, done something in between. I'd be curious to know what their intention with this beer was. But it's really nicely balanced. It's giving you a very kind of good idea of what a barley wine can do. This one shows you quite a few different things. So yeah, on the how do you say, on the on top of the bready layer, then the bread crusty bready layer, that's when you start to get the brown sugars in this one, and they're really nice actually. So one thing I didn't mention earlier actually is one of the things with barley wines is these beers tend to have slightly longer wort boils. So you're talking like 6 hours or something like this at least. So it's interesting with this one because on top of the bread, you can feel there's like a circle in the middle of your palate there. And it's got a bit of that, you can feel there's a bit of a kind of leathery character to the brown sugars in there. So quite a bit of caramelization, it gives you this nice kind of leathery note. But at the edge of that circle, the beer actually feels quite, the flavour feels quite biscuity. So it's like a little McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of sweetness that you get out of this one. But as you move further and further into the dead centre of your palate, it feels a wee bit more, it feels a little bit more kind of like a concentrated caramel. Actually, you can feel at 10.5%, this beer is going to have a bit of a boozy kick to it, especially with a barley wine. So you can feel it, the brown sugars get more and more concentrated the closer to the dead centre of the palate that you go, so you can feel that in there. And yeah, so a little bit boozy in the middle of the palate for sure, you can feel that. And then as you move further out from that, it's got a wee touch of a kind of sweet caramelly note to it. So yeah, I think that goes together very well for sure. So yeah, so dead centre, quite a concentrated, boozy, almost slightly treacly molasses note in there. I would say that there is a wee bit of that, and as you move further out from it, the caramel sweetens up, and then, as I say, the brown sugars dry out a little bit. You get that more kind of leathery type thing, and then the wee bit of biscuity character as you move out toward the extremities of that middle third of your palate. I think that covers everything that we really need to say about the middle of the palate in this one. So it has a wee bit of the English barley wine dryness, and the bready character, I think, as well, gives you a wee bit more of an English quality. But yeah, it is really well balanced between the kind of American sweetness and the English side of things on the malty part of the spectrum. So yeah, keep that in mind. Let's focus on the back third of your palate with this one then. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of bready build up in there and a wee bit of bread crust, and then the base of that back third of the palate is a little bit more, it is a wee bit more of a kind of, you can feel that kind of bread crusty quality in there, and yeah, I do like how that goes together. A nice little bit of a bread crusty, grainy sort of thing. So yeah, that works. Yeah, I think as I always say, you get the more kind of bitter flavours out towards the back of the palate, whereas you get the sweeter ones coming out further forward on the thing. But yeah, base of the back third of your palate, definitely a wee bit more of that. You can feel the woody character is a little bit drier, actually. Almost slightly spicy. On top of that, you get the kind of bread crusty, grainy sort of thing, and again, that's a bit more bitter and dry. But then on top of that, you can feel the more yeasty character coming out. So yeah, it's a little bit more. It is a little bit more kind of concentrated and a little bit more. You can feel it's got this little bit of a dense bready character to it there, a wee bit kind of spicy and stuff like that. And yeah, that's the yeasty part of the beer. But for me, this is quite an interesting beer from the height of the flavour. So you can feel that on the back third of the palate, it is slightly taller. It is slightly taller there. But then, yeah, as you move further forward into the middle third of the palate, the flavour's just condensed down slightly, but not that much. Not that much, I hasten to add. So yeah, flavour is slightly taller on the back third of the palate, but it condenses down going into the middle third of your palate. And yeah, I think that the malty, yeasty side of this beer works together very, very well. Actually, it's just a big oily, chewy type thing actually, but has that bit of booziness to it. I like it. I really do like this one. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, then I think we've said everything we need to about the malty yeasty side of things. So yeah, back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness in there, yeah, wee bit of an earthiness going for there, but not too much. A little bit of a herbal character as you push further forward, and then as you reach the front corners of the tongue, it's a little bit more floral and aromatic, if you like. But as I say, it's not. You can feel the remnants of the hoppy character in there, but it's not too fresh. This one, this beer's actually just at quite a nice point, and I think it's been in the can about 3 months. But you know, obviously, you could keep it a little bit more, and then the hops would drop out even further. But it is at a nice level for the moment. But round the front curve of the palate, you can feel it's a little bit lighter and grassy. And I do like how that goes together as well. And there's a teeny little bit of zestiness just lingering there, but that's tiny. Let's focus on the fruity part of the beer then, front third of your palate. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build up in there. A little bit of a bready build up. And then the base of the front third of your palate is... the base of the front third of your palate is a little bit more... I'd say it's that you do get a little bit of the woodiness, but there's a wee hint of the bready character in there as well. So yeah, nice kind of smooth woody character in there, a wee bit of breadiness on top, and then you can feel that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer, the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, I think this one works very nicely as well. Do like it. So, yeah, on the fruity side of things, then where do we start with that? The fruity side of the beer is actually, pardon me, quite similar to what I was picking up in the aroma, to be honest with you. So the base of that front third of your palate, it feels like at the back, it's got a little bit of that more kind of oily and slightly dry figgy character, but then as you move further forward, it becomes a slightly brighter black currant. But yeah, on top of that, there's a wee bit more of a kind of, there's a bit more, you can feel a bit of a sharper raisin in there and a bit of a kind of plummy note underneath, a more oily plum, but it does give you some of that drier datey, pruny type thing. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, definitely a wee bit of a datey. Yeah, definitely a wee bit of that nice kind of raisiny, plummy note underneath. Bit of an oily fig, but yeah, it's kind of, as I say, it's interesting. The base of the fruity character in this beer for me has that bit of dryness, and you do get a little bit of an almost cakey, fruit loafy type thing at the back of that front third of your palate, and that's English. That's English barley wine character. But sitting on top, you've got the more oily, sweet American fruits. But yeah, as you move further forward onto the very front part of the palate in this one, it's a bit more of a kind of black currant. A black berry. You get that more oily and slightly sharp black berry out of this one. But yeah, I really like how this goes together for sure. So a big thumbs up from me to this one. This is really nice. It shows you it is leaning a bit more towards the American side of things for me, but it has like a little bit of an English backbone to it. I think that's a fair assessment of this beer from the stylistic side of things. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me for sure. I like this one. I wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. So, and it's at a nice age. If you do have a can of this and you fancy it, you are going to get a good beer out of it at this point. You don't need to age it much more, but I'm sure you could, and you get a very nice beer out of it as well. It's up to you, but don't be scared to drink it this early, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's everything about the flavour. Let's round off the review with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So, mouthfeel wise, for me, definitely a full-bodied beer. The carbonation is very, very smooth. As I said earlier, this is quite an oily beer, but it has a really nice kind of cleanliness to it. You really get this lovely kind of clean mountain water mouthfeel to it as well. As we said, the malt base has a wee bit of dryness to it, but it has got a big kind of oily, chewy and sweet side to it as well, which I very much like. So yeah, that goes together pretty well, I think. But on the hoppy side of things, on the hoppy side of this beer, in terms of IBUs, I don't find this one overly bitter. I mean, it's maybe got about 20 or 30 IBUs. I'd be curious to know about this. I don't know if, as is the case with West Coast IPAs, the more modern West Coast IPAs, they've toned down the bitterness of these. But the thing to remember with these beers as well is that you don't drink them fresh. So caring about the IBUs is maybe not the most important thing when it comes to a barley wine in any case. But yeah, I think this one does have a wee bit of bitterness to it, and at this point in time, maybe it's about 20-30 IBUs. There is a little bit of that going on in this one, particularly with the earthiness and a wee bit of the floral character linger in there. But yeah, I do like how that goes together. On the fruity side of the beer, as I said as well, has a wee bit of dryness to it, but it's got quite a nice big oily character to it as well. So this beer for me, it's like it's got an English backbone, but it really leans towards that American side of the barley wine spectrum, if we can call it that. So yeah, I like this one. I have enjoyed this, and it's really nice to see Svartbergets do something a little bit different. As I say, if memory serves me correctly, I've only had New England IPAs from them. Now they do other styles, and I will make an effort to try a few of those. But yeah, the New England IPAs I've had from them have always been good. But yeah, I'd love to see a few more things like this. It'd be cool to see these guys do a Scotch ale. I would love to see them do like a Scotch ale, and maybe a quadruple or something like that as well. Would be a very nice experiment. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So this is the 10.5% barley wine from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri. Basically, yeah, would that be the Black Peak, Black Mountain? The Black Mountain Mountain Brewery, if you want to translate it into English. But yeah, these guys are doing some nice beers, and if you haven't tried their stuff already, I highly recommend that you do. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Svartbergets as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point soon. I think there's a beer next month that I'm going to try from them, so you will see a review from these guys at some point during February. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out theirs. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, and I will see you guys on the next one. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.